When you think about world cities, you have to take into consideration a wide range of factors. There are some historic global cities, the centers of finance and politics, London, Paris, Tokyo, New York City. But over time, we've realized that given globalization, urbanization, rapid technological disruptions, and demographic shifts, every city needs to be global in its orientation. So global cities now means a wide range of mid-sized places that are projecting themselves with visibility and economic competitiveness into the global marketplace. Toronto fits in two categories. One, it's a dominant city in North America, the dominant city in Canada, and is well perceived throughout the world, and therefore it's sort of a contender for a top-tier world city. If you look at the categories, however, of cities based upon their economic composition and competitiveness, Toronto fits into a category that we call international middleweights. They're potent, have a lot of assets, and yet don't reach the level of competitiveness of knowledge capitals, which are generating lots of new ideas, converting them into business dynamism, and are well positioned for extreme growth over the next several years. Toronto has many challenges, however. Its status is not one of a knowledge capital, which are best positioned for continued attraction of foreign direct investment, for generating, commercializing new ideas, and for continuing to attract talent and businesses. Toronto needs to make some investments, and in particular, how it deals with its governance structures to ensure that its current trajectory of being very positive is sustained. I think it's important for Toronto to consider how the private sector and the public sector can work more effectively together at a regional scale. The economy doesn't function just within the city of Toronto. It works all across this economic area. And I see very positive things happening in Toronto where people are taking action on this. Example, better connecting Toronto, Greater Toronto, with Waterloo, where there is enormous innovation potential and generation activity right now. I think Toronto's appeal is its scale within Canada, its innovation assets, and its welcoming and openness to the world. A lot of Toronto's growth has been less about innovative activity and business generation than people moving to Toronto and bringing economic growth with them.
Well, the name Accidental Metropolis, I hate to say, but I actually stole it. There was a wonderful book written about Toronto in the mid-'80s called The Accidental City. And it charted the transformation of Toronto from a provincial city, and frankly very much a second city to Montreal, to becoming the most important city in Canada. My Accidental Metropolis said, well, we've actually gone through another strange transformation, which is, yes, we're the most important city in Canada, the largest and most economically significant, but somehow we've actually joined the top dozen cities in the world. And what's fascinating about it is nobody ever meant this to happen. I've worked in New York and London and a number of world cities who are always striving to be globally significant, to maintain their position. Toronto never tried, never intended, and yet suddenly got there. And it's a fascinating question. How did this accident happen? I actually think there's one absolutely fundamental factor, and that is the level of immigration and the success that the city has had in handling the level of immigration. And what is extraordinary is that this is done largely without conflict or difficulty. So not none, but nearly none of the kinds of issues that have arisen in the other cities have arisen here, which leads, and immigrants are the fuel, they are the energy. These people come here, they really want to come to Canada, or they struggle as refugees to get here. And they've got that energy, that dynamism, that frankly entrepreneurial activity that I think has been the fuel for the city's economy.
Yeah, I think the main factors behind Toronto's success are, a fantastic quality of life. It really is a wonderful city to live in. That's a result of many years of very careful, deliberate planning policy to encourage high-density, mixed-use, really people-oriented planning in the downtown core. And of course, in terms of economic success, a huge factor has been immigration. Canada accepts now around 300,000 people per year, and about half of those people come to Toronto. So, and why do they come to Toronto? There's obviously a combination of a whole lot of different factors. It's prior immigration by other people that from the same countries, but it's because there's a strong economy, it's because it's a great place to live. The transit system is one of the big issues that we're facing, but historically there was a lot of investment in the public transit system in Toronto. Now I think we've the last several decades we haven't invested enough in public transit, and that's really showing. It's a city that you actually can live in without a car, especially if you're living in the downtown core.
I think Toronto has three very important and significant strengths. It has economic strengths, it has environmental strengths, and it has a strength of people. I think our big challenge is also economic. Like most places in the world, we face environmental challenges, particularly from climate change, and those, of course, are really significant. But our economic challenge is twofold, and it threatens our strength significantly. Our manufacturing base is starting to erode for both economic and political reasons. For example, General Motors just closed a plant in Oshawa, a suburb of Toronto, which was the second most efficient plant in North America. But they closed it so a plant would not close in the United States. And this is a risk to our economic future. The second part of this is we're seeing significant increase in inequality, and that's not a Canadian value. And it's a real concern as some people are economically being left behind. Very significant challenge for this city, and I think we're not alone globally in that. So to me, used wisely, the office of the Mayor of Toronto today can achieve very significant things. For example, when I was in office, we said in order to achieve the goals of the people of Toronto, there needs to be significantly more funding from the provincial and federal governments for public transit and housing. We didn't ask for anything else. We said these. We built a coalition of mayors across Ontario and across Canada. And the result of that was literally billions of dollars being invested in new public transit, in rejuvenating the bus fleet, for example, with environmentally more friendly buses, in building subway lines, in building light rail, and very significant investments in affordable housing. That was using the voice and the power of the bully pulpit of the Mayor of Toronto correctly. So I think there is a lot that can be done despite the legal fact that the actual powers are constrained at any particular time by what the provincial government chooses to do.